So you guys probably hear a lot about how phone addiction and social media really messes you up, right? Well, I know the feeling, but I never really understood why. Well, I think today I finally figured it out. I was listening to a podcast whilst I was ironing my clothes today, and it talked about how the dopamine in our brain affects our levels of motivation and satisfaction. What's dopamine, you ask? Well, you can look it up yourself, but TLDR, it's a thing in your brain that affects pleasure and motivation. So the guy in the podcast, TJ Power, who's a neuroscientist, said something that was interesting enough to perk my ears whilst I was mindlessly ironing my stupidly peeled sweater because I fucked up my laundry. He said that our brain is spurred to produce more dopamine when a task is more difficult to do, meaning the more challenging a task, the more motivated we eventually become. Another interesting he said was that a lot of video games nowadays have found a nice balance to this, where they constantly give satisfying challenges that keep people motivated to keep playing more. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Now, think of these dopamine levels as a decaying state. If you start off at 80% and do nothing about it, it will slowly decay over time and may even reach 0%. So, I'm thinking, is this why some people end up feeling burnt out or just have zero motivation to do anything at all? So the guy also mentions that in our current modern society, there are many things that provide instant dopamine hits, such as doomscrolling, social media, or cigarettes even. These hits don't come with any built-up dopamine and thus end up being very insignificant and unsustainable against the dopamine decay. Instead, what happens is that the time you spend doing those activities may end up resulting in your dopamine levels just plummeting faster as compared to when you're actually doing other things. I guess that's why waking up and immediately grabbing your phone to doom scroll is probably one of the worst things that you could do for your day. Anyway, that's my interpretation of what I got from the podcast. If you want to give it a listen, I'll link it in the description below. And thank you for coming to my TED Talks.